continuación, me toca introducir a una persona muy importante dentro de la comunidad de Drupal, una mujer que, pese a las dificultades que tal vez la comunidad ha estado pasando, se ha mantenido positiva, ha mantenido una Drupal.org vibrante y un evento gigante que es el DrupalCon. Entonces, a continuación, la directora ejecutiva de Drupal Association, de Drupal Wonder Woman, Sanicki. Un aplauso, por favor.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Sanicki, and can you hear me? I tend to walk around. Can you hear me okay? Great. All right. Thanks, Kenny's in the back. Give me the thumbs up. So I'm the executive director at the Drupal Association, and I am really excited to come to Costa Rica. When I received the invitation from the local association, I made sure I could say yes. Moved a few things, worked it out with the family, and it's just a country I've always been really interested in exploring. And unfortunately, I don't have time to really see Costa Rica this time, but I'm just glad I could meet all of you and the local community, because I've heard great things. And I have watched every episode of the Sloth Sanctuary, so I don't know if that's popular here or if people think highly of sloths, but they're very cute and adorable, and I really wanted to hold a baby sloth. I'm not going to do that this trip, but I'm coming back. That is like a life goal for me, is to go to the Sloth Sanctuary. So just before I get started, my topic is passion-driven development, and I'll go into a little bit more of what that topic's about, but I thought it'd be good for this audience to know more about the Drupal Association. We have a huge, large community around the world, and the Drupal Association is the organization that has the mission for uniting everyone and helping the community build and promote the software. And we do it in two very specific ways. We unite everyone on our website, Drupal.org. It has 20 million unique visitors. And it is where the community goes to use the developer tools to build the software, and then people go there to download the software. It's where you can go as maybe a new client. You can go there and find out why Drupal's so great and get marketing materials, and also go to our marketplace to find where all of our business, all the businesses that do Drupal work. And so we're the stewards of this community asset and make sure that it works and serves the community. And we also unite everyone at DrupalCon, which is our global event. It brings together... Oh, did you? Sure, sorry. Thank you for speaking up. So DrupalCon is our global event, and we have it in North America. We've had it in Europe. We've had it in Colombia. We've had it in India. And it is an opportunity to bring thousands of people together to learn more about Drupal, to come together as a community to celebrate, and also to contribute. Some of the largest sprints happen at our events. And so that is what we do, and I am really honored to have the job to lead this organization. It's something I'm very passionate about, and it's because I get to impact people's lives, and that's really important to me. And that's really what my topic is going to be about today, is finding a career you're passionate about, something that doesn't just feed the pocket but feeds the soul. And I also want to explain how you can find that career in Drupal. But before I get started, I just want to know who's in the room. So, who is new to Drupal? Who is brand new? Okay, we've got some hands up. How many people have been working with Drupal for 1 to 2 years? Okay, good. 3 to 4 years. Okay, and then the rest of you, have you been here for more than working with Drupal for more than 5 years? Excellent. Okay, so we have a nice mix. Good. So, and I guess my last question is, well, actually I have 2 more. How many have been contributing to Drupal? All right, so we still have a lot of people that haven't started to contribute back to the project, right? All right, let's talk about that. And then the other question is, how many people are actually passionate about their jobs, that they know this is something that really gets them up out of bed every day? That's good. It's a good mix.
Makes me happy to see that, and I would like more people to be able to say that about their jobs. And the reason why I want people to have jobs that they're passionate about is because we work hard, right? Who doesn't work hard? We need money, we're feeding our families, it's important. And we work many, many years. Like, this happens until, we're ready to retire. And so this is a big, huge part of our life, and we should really think about how we're spending our time at work. And let's face it, if you are working just to feed your pocket, you're going to reach burnout. You're going to have those difficult clients, because yes, they do exist. And you're going to have those hard challenges, and you're going to have other things that are going to happen to make things just get to a point where feeding the pocket just isn't enough. And burnout is a serious thing that I think everyone at some point has to deal with, unfortunately. But when you find something you're passionate about, when you hit those difficult points in your career, you're more willing to work through it. You're more excited to get to the other end and solve that problem. And actually, they say that when you have found work that you love, you are actually in the flow. And it's a whole different kind of work experience. And I'll just kind of illustrate it just with a story of my own. So I used to work in proprietary software. I worked for Hewlett-Packard for several years. And it was at a time of lots and lots of change. They had acquired Compaq, probably the largest company in the world at the time. And they realized they needed to start laying people off, 10,000 people, 20,000 people, but they didn't know who. So every quarter, they said, we're going to lay people off until we finally hit the number we need to hit. That's a really hard work environment, because you don't know if you have a job in 3 months or not, and that happened for 2 years. And one day, and they were kind of changing their strategy a lot, and so sometimes you're working on this project, and other days you're told, no, that's over, we're going to work on this project. And that was hard too. One day a CTO came into my office and said, look, we're starting a new group, you're in charge of the business strategy, and you have 9 months to pull the strategy together, get the partnerships in place, and launch this at the conference, or 80 people lose their job. That's not cool. But that happened. And I worked really hard, because at the time I didn't want, I just felt all this responsibility, and I was working more out of fear for all these jobs, and what does this mean, fear for myself and the income for my family. And I'm really proud to say that after 9 months of working with a team on the East Coast and the West Coast of the US and flying back and forth every other week, we did it. We launched this new business strategy with partners and a $6 million customer. And I'm very proud of that. However, the company changed strategy all over again, and they ended up laying off people. And all of that work was kind of for naught, right? So that is a really hard situation. I actually ended up getting shingles, right? My body told me, like, this did not work for me. And I had to really rethink things. I had to ask, why? What's my why? What's my purpose for doing this, right? I kind of was like, I did all this work. Do the customers care? Does HP care? Do the people that are still there, do they care? And I really, I think to an extent, the people in my life that had a relationship with me, of course they care. That's the human connection. But really, it wasn't the right kind of work for me, or the right environment. It was a hard environment. And I stopped being in technology, and I decided to work in government, because I wanted to be a public servant and see what that was like. And with every job, you're going to have challenges. But what I found by working for the state of New Jersey, overseeing marketing for public transportation, was that I did a different type of work. It was more human-centric work. It was about the people I was serving. And I could run this great team that we were in charge of marketing public transportation and increasing ridership. But at the end of the day, I was impacting people's lives. I'll never forget when we opened up a new line into a community that just was really so underserved. For them to get to jobs, it would take them 2 hours just to get to their job and back. And it wasn't very far. It's just that they were dependent on public transportation, and they just didn't have what they needed to get to their work in a reasonable amount of time. And when we opened this up, people came up to me with tears saying, thank you for opening up this line. It's going to change my life. I can now go, instead of 2 years to work, 2 hours to work, I can get there in 45 minutes. And that means I can be there for my daughter and see her on the school bus, and I can be home to cook dinner for my family. Like, the work that we did impacted people's lives, and boy, did it feel good to hear it too. And I realized, from there on, that I just needed to have a different kind of job, one that serves people, impacts lives. And that's very much my purpose, and that I've based my career on moving forward. And it was hard at New Jersey Transit as well. I mean, we were increasing fares, right? So people now had to spend more money to get to work and to school and everything like that. But you work through it because you know you're serving them and you care about this and you listen to them. You go that extra effort in ways you may not if you didn't care about the outcome. But ultimately, I just realized that I needed something a little bit different. I miss technology. It's heady, right? It's smart. It moves fast. It's really challenging. But I wanted to still serve people. And I wasn't quite sure where I would find the intersection of that. Fortunately, my husband has been in open source for years. He works at GitHub. And we were talking about it, and he's like, you should work for an open source foundation where you could be in a position where you do the work that a community needs, but you're still dealing with technology and helping them get that technology adopted. And I was really fortunate. Literally within a couple weeks, I found the Drupal Association. They were starting to hire, and I was able to get a position. And ever since then, I've been kind of helping the organization grow. And we've had our different challenges throughout the years, but I've been really committed to working through those challenges because I get to see how it can change people's lives. And I want to tell you some of those stories as part of my presentation. But there's some practical things I just wanted to share. So when I went to the Drupal Association, I realized, okay, I get to choose what kind of a career I have. I've learned something about myself. I learned that I need to serve people and that I like to be in tech. And I saw the Drupal Association was just a small, starting, kind of a startup as a nonprofit. And I realized it could go in lots of different directions, and I could probably even choose how I wanted my career to go at the association. Do I want to go into biz dev? Do I want to go into community management, right? Like all these different things that were appearing as opportunities. And I said, I want to take control of my career. And this is what I encourage all of you to do in your jobs, especially if you're new into the workforce. And that is, I went through some exercises. I actually hired an executive coach that I've been working with for the last 2 years. And he helped me understand more about myself and what's important to me, what makes me tick. And this is one of the exercises that I went through. It's really about finding your vocation. So it was about understanding your strengths and doing different exercises to really know what you're good at. For me, it's a lot of I'm really good at picking a vision and then executing. I have strong empathy, so I can get people together to work on that. And then we talked about the impact we want to make in the world. And that was a hard one, too. I hadn't really thought about that. But how do I want to make an impact in the world? And for me, it ended up being that I like to reduce suffering. I don't have any one cause. Maybe you have a cause. I just don't like suffering. It hurts me when other people hurt. And I like to create opportunities so that they can kind of thrive in life. And then for my passion, this one kind of, it always changes, but really like what I get joy out of is bringing people together, giving people a sense of belonging and a sense of achievement. And being part of that achievement and celebrating it. Those are really important to me. And at the end of the day, my vocation turned out to be, like when I looked at all those different things, it was basically leading social enterprise. And I've been making decisions over the last couple years based on this exercise. There's a lot more to it, but I encourage you to get to know yourself at this kind of a level so that you start making decisions so that you can move into roles that put you into the flow. It really, really can change your life, and it ends up changing the lives of the others that you work for. So if you want more information about these kinds of exercises, feel free to see me during the camp. So, there's power in choice. You can choose the career you want once you know what it is that you want. But I want to talk about how you can also choose to have an amazing career in Drupal, one that feeds the pocket, as in puts money in your pocket, and feeds the soul. There's a lot of great things that happen within Drupal and working in Drupal and being part of this community. So I want to start by talking a little bit about what it means for Drupal to feed the pocket, right? Let's start with the basic needs. So Drupal puts you into projects that are really, you know, they're heady, they're challenging, you work with smart people, some really great environments, some great companies that you can work for. And Drupal is adopted all over the world by really impressive brand names too. And so you're in really good company when you choose Drupal. And, you know, just some of these that I put on the slide, they just represent the different industries that we're in. But really, we're in all of them. And maybe I'll find my slide where I can get some stats. Here we go. So just some things that I think are impressive is that 73% of the top 30 media companies use Drupal. 71% of the top 100 universities use Drupal. And 150 countries around the world are using Drupal. Those are just a few stats. Yeah, yeah. So when you choose Drupal, you're in really good company, and there's a lot of demand out there. So when a company like a Pfizer, Tesla, when that CTO, the CIO, when they are thinking about choosing Drupal, they often go to an analyst report to say, well, who are the leading vendors that I should consider? And they often go to Gartner or Forrester. And unfortunately, the way these reports work and the way the analysts work is that, you know, to be added to a report like this, you have to, you know, meet certain feature and functionality kind of criteria, but you also have to have a certain revenue threshold that you meet. And because we're open source, they don't know how to compute that, which is really hard for open source, and it's something we're working on trying to change that kind of thinking. So what's happened over the last couple of years is that Acquia has been working with the analysts, and Acquia, if you don't know them, is a Drupal business that's owned by the founder of this project. So Acquia has been working with the analysts to get Drupal represented in there. And so it's all of Drupal's features and functionality, and they just say this is our revenue. So that way they have the full picture and they can get into the analyst report. And as you can see, Drupal is considered the leader. And we have been in that leader position for the last 3 years. I think 4 years, the report just came out. So this is really important. It's not only that we're being adopted, is that the analysts are saying this is who you should go with, right? And when you read the report, it goes into much more detail about Drupal itself, giving that CIO the information they need to choose Drupal. And I've talked with a lot of companies too about how they choose Drupal, and this is what they say. We go to this, then we go to the website, then we go and we find a vendor, a lot of times on Drupal.org. So there's a lot of demand. And that means there's a lot of job opportunities. We do surveys from time to time within our community, and the last one was telling us that job seekers see lots of jobs out there, and that there's great value in having Drupal skills. It helps them get a job even faster. I mean, I talk to Drupal businesses all the time. As part of my job is understanding what's happening in the business ecosystem, and everyone is looking for talent. So this is a good choice to start a career in. And the other thing too is that you know, employers are also saying that they're just always hiring. Most of them, and I think it's this one at the bottom, is talking about how employers are either constantly hiring because there's so much demand, or they're going to be hiring the next 6 months. And then the other important thing is that because there's such demand, they will hire whatever skill level they can get. So if you're a beginner, they will take you on, they will train you themselves or put you through training. So it's not just for the advanced developers. And so for anyone that's new, I encourage you to start looking and exploring what you can do with Drupal. And you know, there's a lot of stats and data. And at the end of the day, what people always ask is like, yeah, but can I really do that? I think we all have a little imposter syndrome when we're looking for a new job. We're like, well, that's great and all, there's all that, but all this opportunity out there, but how do I get that to happen for me? And I'd like to tell the story of Matt Glayman. He just keynoted Drupal Camp London earlier this year. So Matt, 5 years ago, was delivering beer to bars. That was his job. And he did some websites on the side. He knew a little bit, but not very much. And he knew through a friend that he wanted to kind of change careers. He said, oh, my knees are starting to hurt, my back's going, this is not what I want to do for my life. I'm really interested in my hobby, how do I make that a career? And he said, I don't have money to go back to school, I can't pay for training, right? Like, this is a thing, how do you cross that chasm into a new career if you can't invest in it? But what he realized is that the community has put out so many resources and the community is so willing to help that he was able to apply himself and use all these free resources and get his job with Drupal, and now he's a senior developer working for Commerce Guys, which I think is a really amazing story. And it's just one story out there. I talk to people all the time in the community, and this is not unique. And this could happen to you and be your story too. And you might say, well, of course, this is an American. All the jobs maybe for Drupal are in the US. You might say, oh, or other countries. But I want to reinforce that the job opportunities are here in Costa Rica as well. I think you can see that with our sponsors that are doing really well, the different businesses, the Drupal businesses here. And I'm sure there are plenty of companies here in Costa Rica that need a website or an app built for them. But there's something else happening in the greater Drupal business ecosystem. It's just general globalization is happening. It used to be that in North America and Europe, it was really where the Drupal business was taking place. And the hourly rates were really high. And there's a lot of pressure for those high rates too, because talent was still scarce and you had to pay for all that talent. But then over time, Drupal development was happening around the world, and people were charging different rates. It's very different pricing in Eastern Europe or in India, right? And so all of a sudden, because of globalization, and someone like Pfizer can work with Tata Consultancy Services in India for their Drupal work, it suddenly just changes the whole market and what people can charge. And what that has done is made businesses in North America and Europe really smart in terms of partnering. So they want to partner with someone who they can outsource projects to, that they trust, have good project management for good handoff of projects. They're looking for a partner that can deliver great talent at a different price point than what they can get in their own country. And there are plenty of choices out there. Some companies are going to the Ukraine, some are going to India. But what I'm finding is a more popular trend of companies, especially in North America, coming and partnering with businesses here in Costa Rica. And there's great talent here, there's great businesses who know how to deliver excellent projects, and it's very convenient. You're not far, you're in the same time zone as most companies, right? It really works. And this is a unique position that Costa Rica is in. And I see that this is going to grow more and more. It's kind of reading my tea leaves, but that's what I think is going to happen in the Costa Rica market. And I think you have a lot of opportunity here. So I encourage you to talk with the businesses here if you are looking for an opportunity. I have no idea if they're hiring, but it's Drupal, everyone's hiring always. So that is a little bit about Drupal and how you can feed your pocket. I just want to check the time. And having a job with Drupal, you can not just feed the pocket, you can feed the soul, just with the work you do, right? You might say that your passion is to just build something really amazing, or to give someone a great user experience, or just to be part of some really challenging type of project. There's all kinds of things you might be passionate about that just makes you want to wake up every morning and go to work. But there's something special about Drupal that allows you to feed the soul even more so, even more than just everything I've just talked about. And that's the community. You know, we have this amazing community where people around the world are giving up thousands of hours to move the project forward, and they contribute in lots of ways. Of course, you can contribute code, that's the obvious one. Documentation, we have people who are mentoring, right? Mentoring the people at the sprints to learn how to code. And we have camp organizers that bring all of us together. And there's a place for everyone in Drupal. And, you know, it's just a very special type of culture as well. So we're large, we're global, we're very open, and we want everyone to join us. And we also have a very passionate community, a very caring community, and we're very welcoming. We even have an organization called the Community Working Group, and their whole job is to make sure we stay a welcoming community. And of course, we want to welcome you, if you haven't contributed, to come and join us, because we want you to be a part of this community. We're always looking to grow it and to share this experience with you. And we will provide the help for you to find your special niche in the community, whether it's mentors helping you contribute code, camp organizers are always looking for help. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways we can help you find your special niche. All you have to do is come up and ask. And I just want to talk about my own experience, how you just have to ask. So I contribute it in all kinds of ways. You know, I've raised millions of dollars for the association so we could go off and do special programs for the community. And that's great, that's what I do. But I'm not a developer, and I wanted to know what that experience was like to contribute code. So I asked Angie Byron, WebChicks, for help. And we met up at a camp, and we went through the process. I won't lie, it was hard. Even she got a little confused at some points. She hadn't done this in a while, but we worked through it, and then in the end, I did it. So by the way, this is a story of not just how if you ask for help, you get help, but also like if you haven't contributed code and you think you can't, trust me, you can. You really can, because if I can, you can. And what I learned from this experience is that, you know, contributing is great, but whatever amount you give, you get back so much more. So this experience, I provided a patch. Like I changed a word. I think I capitalized a word. I mean, it was like so mundane and simple, it's ridiculous. It took me 4 hours to do that, by the way. But, but still, what happened was I created a bond with Angie, right? I had this experience, this moment. I was happy, she was happy. We now have a memory. No one can take that away. When we see each other, we high five, and it's great. And, you know, I just feel that there's so much more happening in Drupal and in our community. And I believe that we exist to coexist, and that as humans, we're always trying to find ways to connect in a meaningful level with people. And Drupal gives you that chance, but you have to contribute to understand that. I think it's very profound what's actually happening with our community and what we give to each other. So I encourage you to use this time to contribute to the community. Find your own niche. It pays off in dividends, trust me. And, you know, I was talking about how you build these bonds. You know, once you're in the community, I know I can call on Angie and be like, hey, I'm having a problem. I need help. Could be anything. I can call up Tiffany and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I just want to talk. And that happens like Fridays. Yeah. You know, I mean, I have this community now that I can lean on. I can laugh with, I can cry with, I can ask for help. And this is something that everyone experiences in their own special way when they're in the community. And this is one story that just always touches me that I'd like to share, but there was a longtime community member by the name of Windborne that many people worked with over the years, and he announced a couple years back that he had a terminal illness. He didn't have long to live, and he had a family, he had a wife, and little children. He wasn't sure what was going to happen, right? What kind of a situation he was going to leave them in. Very emotional. And a few people took the charge and said, well, we're going to help you. And they put up a crowdsourcing fund, and people all over donated to that to help this family in a time of serious need, really hard time. And so many letters from the community going to him and supporting him during this whole process. And it just, something that moved me very much. I think it moved many people that were a part of this. And this is what the Drupal community does, is we're there for you. We're not there just to help you about the code. It's not just about the software. It's about you as a human and being connected to you and being a part of your life. And unfortunately, Aaron lost his life, but now we honor him every year with the Aaron Windborne Award, and we give it to a community member who's just really done something special. I'm very proud that we can do that, and I'm glad we could do it with the community working group. And this is an extreme story, right? But this happens all the time. I've seen people go through divorces that have leaned on their friends in the community. I've seen people have new babies, and everyone celebrates, right? Like, this is just what you get when you join the community. And so it's not just friendships and this human connection that we offer. There's a lot more that once you get involved in the community, you start to realize that the more you give, the more you get in other ways too. So for example, I think many of you probably know Enzo. I like to use him as an example. So when you start to contribute, you start to know more, right? And then people want to reach out and ask you for help. Like, oh, you know how to solve that problem. I want to talk to you. And all of a sudden, you're known, right, as that person who knows that thing. And next thing you know, you're getting invited to speak, right? And you're getting on stage, like I am. I never used to do this. It's amazing. I now do this all the time, and it's really rewarding. It's great, frankly, for my resume to say I can get on stage and talk to thousands of people. But it's also just nice to know that people want to hear my story and invite me to share it. And this can happen to you. Enzo, how many camps have you spoken at? Right? It just kind of happens, right? It's amazing. He's invested a lot to make that happen too. But the more you give, the more you receive, right? Yeah. And so you get known, you get invited to speak, and next thing you know, you might be receiving a scholarship to travel the world, right? DrupalCon, the Drupal Association raises funds to get people from all over the world to come into DrupalCon and experience what DrupalCon is. Maybe your company has a special kind of program that brings you to DrupalCon, right? So it's like the more you give, the more you receive in terms of world knowledge and learning different cultures and meeting the greater community. And also the more you learn, the more you contribute to Drupal, the more you're getting familiar with the software and you understand the right way to Drupal. And that helps your career, right? So now you're going to also be investing in yourself and going for that next job. Maybe you're a junior developer, but you want to start working towards being a senior developer. Learning how to contribute and really getting in there and working with people is a great way to learn how to take that next step. So I'm telling you all these great things. Yes, great Drupal, it's on the rise, it's doing really well in all kinds of markets, lots of opportunities in the job market, that's great, it feeds the soul. I told some stories about, what contributing means, what this community can do for you, what it can give you, but I just feel like telling a story of someone who's actually experienced this is probably the best way to share this. I have the honor of talking with community members all around the world and finding out how Drupal has changed their life. And so it's always hard for me to pick a story because there's literally thousands that I could choose from. But one of my favorite is Vijay. So Vijay Manny, he now works at Tata Consultancy Services. So he's from India, a little village in Chennai. He didn't speak English very well. And he went to university. He said it was really hard because he didn't speak English and it was all done in English, and he studied computer science. When he came out, normally you would, in the Indian culture, you want to work for a really well-known company, maybe Capgemini or Wipro, and he was explaining how there's this culture of these companies that you really want to work for. And when he came out, he was still kind of struggling to find his strength. And he was working for a smaller web development agency, which was great for him, he found out, because he got to try lots of different things, and that clients would even say, I want you to use different tools. And so it actually worked out really well for him, because he had more flexibility, there was more learning that he had than maybe at a large company in a sea of cubes. And so he was building websites, and then one day a client said, I want you to build me something in Drupal. And he knew nothing about Drupal. And it's really funny to hear his story, because he's like, oh my gosh, I killed so many kittens, I hacked core. You know, it's just like, it was not beautiful by any means. But that's how you start, right? And so he built his first website, and then he started to build another website for another client in Drupal. And this was several years ago, when Drupal was not quite as broadly adopted by the big companies. And then he saw a blog post by Dries, I think it was titled, "The Elephants Are Coming." And it was talking about how Tata Consultancy Services, or maybe it was Capgemini, I'm sorry, I think it was Capgemini, had a special program with Royal UK in England. It was a large enterprise solution, and Drupal was a big part of that solution. And it was the first time Drupal was part of an enterprise project. And, you know, there weren't that many people, especially in India, who knew Drupal at the time. And so Vijay said, well, I'm going to make something out of this, because I now know Drupal, and I think that puts me in a special position. And so he applied for a Drupal job at Capgemini, and he got that job. And not only did he get that job, but he moved from his little village of Chennai all the way to London. And so he started working directly with Royal UK on this project. And his life radically changed. I mean, the economic impact for his family alone was amazing. But just to have a whole new worldview and see, you know, different cultures because of your job, all because you invested some time in Drupal, is pretty outstanding. And he said that, you know, he had been taking from Drupal all these years and building websites, and he wanted to finally learn how to give back. And he went to a camp in London, and they taught him, the mentors were there, and they taught him how to contribute back. And he was really excited. He said there was some very special feeling for him when he could contribute code. He just felt like he was no longer just taking, that he was a part of something bigger than him even. And he was finally part of the solution in this community. He got so excited, he applied for a grant from the Drupal Association, and we flew him to DrupalCon Prague. And that's where he started to really get involved in sprinting and contributing, and kind of just really clicked for him there, he said. And now he is one of our top contributors. He says he just loves helping people, and so he's also mentoring tons of other people like him, helping them find their way to contributing code. And that has just completely changed his life. And because he's been giving back so much, especially in his community now in the UK, that community has also fallen in love with him. And they have helped him get a visa so that he can stay in the UK for many years with his family. And that's an amazing story to me, to come from a little village in India to having this global community support you. And you know, this is just one story. It could also be your story too. So, if you want to make that your story, you know, if you're looking for a new job, I definitely encourage you to talk with the sponsors here and other businesses here in Costa Rica. And also you can go on to Drupal.org Marketplace. It is a great way to see not just companies who work in Drupal, but which companies value giving you time to contribute back. And so we have issue credits. And the marketplace is actually ranked by issue credits that are earned by all the employees who contribute back, and it aggregates it by the company. And I really encourage you to find one that wants you to feed your pocket and your soul. That's the kind of employer you're looking for. And of course, I'm going to use Enzo again as an example. You know, another way to get started is to create your user profile on Drupal.org if you don't have one already. This is your resume, so to speak, and it's a place for you to put all the things you've done in Drupal, all of your contributions, all of your speaking opportunities, how many years you've been with Drupal. And so this is important when you're going to look for a job. So I encourage you to get that up to date if you haven't done it in a while. And yeah. So lots of opportunities in Drupal. And I share all of these stories because I just want the best for everyone. I want to create opportunities, sometimes just sharing stories and motivating people to think about what they want in life and helping them see that there's a path forward to go get it is, you know, that makes me happy when I can do that. And I encourage you to start And I encourage you to start now, because there are millions of people out there that are relying on Drupal to get information that's really important to them. Maybe it's their own personal health records that they need from a doctor or from a hospital. Or maybe they want to know what their retirement fund looks like. Can they retire yet? Nope. Or it could be something frivolous. They just need to look at that cat video, right? Like, those are important too. But there are people in your life even that you may not realize are relying on Drupal for this kind of information that's being served to them. For me, I realize it's my sister, and this is her. She wouldn't let me get a better picture of her, but she's a scientist. She's actually a climate scientist. We're very, very different people. And I never thought we'd really have anything truly in common other than we love each other because we're sisters. But we found that there was something actually very important about our connection recently. And that is that, when she went to undergrad, she went to Cornell University for studying environmental sciences. And then from there, she got her master's at San Francisco State University. And then from there, she got her PhD in climate science from Berkeley, University of Berkeley in California. And she still has a whole peer network of scientists that she works with at all those universities. And now she works for the USGS, U.S. Geological Survey. And that is a federal agency where scientists work to solve environmental problems. They do the research, and then maybe they'll go to the farmers or a city and say, look, this is the impact you're creating. Based on our research, we recommend that you do this. Save you money. It can also improve the environment, right? So it's very applied science, which is great. The one thing about this job is she has to go and raise all of her funds. It might be a government job, but it doesn't come with money. So she has to get grants every year, and she applies for her grants from NASA, and she gets millions of dollars from them. They're an incredible supporter of hers. And she even does research with them as well. So for example, she wanted to study the San Francisco Bay and what's happening with water pollution. And so she worked with NASA to have a satellite that was going over. So she had it was like booked for her, and the satellite was going over to look right down where she was going to do the study and to basically gather the satellite imagery that she needed. Meanwhile, she would be on a boat with scientists, and they would go out to that same spot and take water samples. And then she would come back to the lab, get the data from NASA, get the water sampling data, and then she'd correlate it all to understand what's happening and start seeing, they would do this a couple times, a longitudinal study, so they can see if the changes that they were making are improving the water quality. And so she's been working with all of these scientists. She passes the information to her peers at these universities and to NASA. And her peers at the United States Geological Survey. And what we realized is that all of those institutions, all of this information is being passed through Drupal. And so I realized it's important that we as an association keep uniting this community to help everyone build and promote the software, because my sister depends on it, and all of these scientists depend on it to save our planet, right? And if I can just help my sister and her peers, imagine how many other millions of people we can help. And so that's why I encourage you to start today, to get involved in this community and to contribute, because we're doing amazing things together. So with that, I would just like to say, come to Drupal and find your passion.
If somebody has a questions, or si alguna persona que desea hacer alguna pregunta, puede ser en español, puede ser en inglés. Nobody? Nadie? Okay. Okay. Para la distribución de las aulas y las conferencias vamos a tener las aulas 111, 112 y 113. Están en esta primera ala. Sobre el pasillo vamos a estar sirviendo las comidas y los keynote siempre van a ser aquí en el auditorio. Bienvenidos a Costa Rica, los visitantes. y vamos a tener una fotografía en ese instante. Vamos a tomarnos una fotografía en este momento. Ok.